Hey all, here is a replay version of the most recent live stream Q&A on all things Social Security that occurs every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this is with all of little silences carved out of it. So I hope it's an easier listen for those who are doing the replay versus being there live. And we'd love to see you live. So feel free to pop in. Bye-bye now. Hey guys. Hello, hello, hello. Happy Wednesday. Happy live stream. Today is July 1st. Ooh, it's my friend Lisa's. It's my friend Lisa's birthday. I'm gonna have to give her a quick message. All right, can you guys hear me? I'll make a good bit of comments. Should be good to go, I think. Kevin, are you in the house? You had a question. I see it that says, how far am I away from the famous mall from the 1979 Dawn of the Dead movie? Hi, Butch. I see you there. You know, it's funny you asked that because I've heard of Dawn of the Dead, of course, but I didn't even know there was a mall or anything. So I don't even know if I ever watched the Dawn of the Dead, which is pretty funny because I know I've seen bits and pieces. That whole series of zombie things from the 70s is what made me think I would never watch a zombie movie. And then when The Walking Dead came out, and I hadn't heard of it, I was just, I think our kids were like toddlers, and my husband and I would have TV time after they were in bed, and we stumbled upon it maybe on AMC, and it was like a binge thing. There was like 5 in a row, and we were hooked. I mean, it was pretty insane. I was a little embarrassed, but it was fun. But anyway, so Kevin, I looked up, I saw your thing about a half hour ago, and I looked up what that was. It was, now I'm going to say it wrong. I think it's Monroeville, Pennsylvania. Apparently it's east of Pittsburgh, which is still quite a distance from me. And the town is obviously Monroeville. So that's not close to me. It's probably 3 or 4 hours away, maybe 4. Anyway, so I hope you guys are doing good. I don't know which one of you might have a heat wave like we're having, which is fine because I'm very fortunate. I have air conditioning. Not in this office, but I have the door open. So if you hear anything raucous out there, you know why. And you guys can hear me, right? Otherwise, I'm pretty sure you'd be telling me because my mouth would be going like this. So there you go, Kevin. It's not close to me, but pretty cool memory of yours that it's in PA. We got Butch in the house. Hi, Butch. I don't think we've met. Have we? Your picture looks familiar, but maybe other people can have that same picture. Earth One is in the house. Hello, nice to see you. Mike Pace is in the house. Hi, Mike. It's very hot in Connecticut. I bet it is. I have some cousins that live in Connecticut. I figured you and I are probably in the same kind of, largely the same climate, similar. LaRocha's in the house. Hi, Lily. Lily's in the house, she says. Good to see you. CG's in the house. Hello, hello. Nice to see you, CG. Dimple's in the house. Hi, Dimple. I feel like I haven't talked to you all week. Dimple says they are in the 90s and it's crazy humidity. Oh, that humidity is the worst. Probably wouldn't be so bad, right, without the humidity. And isn't that why people move to Arizona and places like that? They have the heat, which is kind of nice for the bones, but particularly as we get older. But the humidity, apparently, I think, is not there. Butch says, I'm pretty new to your channel. Really enjoy the content. So glad to hear it. Thanks, Butch. Spread the word. As they say, guys, what have I been told? Christina, who's, I don't see her here yet, but she always says, like, share, and subscribe. John Lantieri's in the house. Good to see you, John. Big month for both of us. Thanks to you. Yeah, that was great. That's big for us, too. You know what I mean? We love it every time. So, and a twofer is always good, right? CG says it's very hot in Tennessee. Oh, I bet it is. And you can hear it very good. Thank you, Lily. Yep. Okay, so, oh, and Butch is in East Tejas. Okay. Did you say where is East Tejas? Did you say where you were from? I don't think you did. East Tejas. You didn't mean Texas, did you? Or did you? Yeah, I bet you it's hot. All right. Dimple says, and become a member. That'd be sweet. Texas. All right, Butch. All right, come on, guys. Questions? If not, I was going to share with you If anyone thinks of putting a question up, please do. In the meantime, I'm just going to share with you what came out. I think this came out to me yesterday. I was going to do just a video on it, but I have not had a chance. We have some intense hearing stuff going on, so my time has been devoted largely to that and just getting my clients work, keeping that in order while I focus on those pending hearings. So this was put out by the Social Security Administration on the 29th, so 2 days ago. I'm going to try to just blow through the blowhardness, because there's always blowhardness, right? Just where they share, truthful things and nice, flattering opinions about themselves, which is fine, but we don't need to hear about it, right? So they go on to say the commissioner had put out a full letter describing things. So this is just a summary. They highlighted certain things from the letter. I'll move this over here for the moment. Highlighted in the letter, double-digit improvements in service delivery. I believe it to be true, because remember, double digits does not mean double. It doesn't mean twice as good. It means 10% or more, right? So they're not speaking something crazy here. They said, all right, so there's 5 bullets under this. It says reducing the national 800 number average speed of answer from 34 minutes in 2024 to 8 minutes to date, which is a 75% reduction total. That's pretty significant. Remember, that's an average, guys. So if you hop on there and you get a 20-minute wait and you say, wait a minute, they said it's 8 minutes. No, that's the average. So there could be 20-minute waits. There could be 2-hour waits, God forbid. But there's probably many that are like, boom, 15 seconds, 15 seconds, 15 seconds. And when you average that out, all those big ones everything gets scrunched down to an average of 8. There could be very big extremes on either end. The next bullet point says completing 385 million online transactions full year. I think that's full year, FY 2026 year to date. So I believe that would be October 1st of 25 to the present, because their fiscal year, I'm assuming that's what they're going on. That's an assumption here that when they say full year or FY 2026, they're meaning, well, that could mean fiscal year, which would definitely be October 1st of 2025, because it goes down to September 30th of 2026. And of course, we've got a couple months left to go. So in any event, that's a 37%, almost 40% increase over 2024 completion of online transactions. Again, that's really big, guys. It just is. They have shortened the field office wait times by 30%. I assume that means in-person appointments, but it doesn't say. Reducing the initial disability claims backlog. Now, that was a big problem that we had over the last few years on initial and then on recon, right? So they reduced the initial disability claims backlog by over 30% from a high of nearly 1.3 million in 2024 to 853,000. All right, that's pretty big. And decreasing disability hearing wait times over 90 days to 266 days for that year of 2026, year to date, reaching historic lows. Okay. I would just remind you also that the second half of 2024, because the backlog on initial and recon had come to be so bad over those last few years, they closed off CDRs. They stopped taking any new CDRs, I believe, for about 6 months. They announced it in 2024 summer, but I think they then took away the stay by the end of 2024. I think it could have been early 25, but I think it was end of 2024. So CDRs ensued after that point. I assume that means new ones. Old ones, probably they didn't halt. And that halting of CDRs was to help that backlog that they had grown over those few years. So they tried to diminish that a little bit in 2024 by using the CDR people to work on the initial and recons. Then, of course, CDRs are backlogs. So now we're probably getting through a backlog of CDRs. And also, so now that they did that, and the other thing that I could say might have affected was that in this past year, so I think this was still 2026, just a few months ago, they decided that CDRs aren't even going to be done by the people that are doing the initial and recon. So where it had been taken away for 6 months before and just halted CDRs altogether, they actually took the CDR protocol process out of the hands of the state workers so they can focus on initials and recons. And we don't ever have that problem, hopefully, again, with that huge backlog. Now that the backlog of initial and recons is down 30%, I do see what seems to be, even though it's vastly improved, as I just read up above, the hearing wait time, I feel like mine are getting a little slower from the time I file it. It could just be a couple months, but I don't know. That might just be my perception. I don't track this stuff. I just go by what the practice feel is like. I have several hearing requests and we have not gotten a date. It honestly doesn't bother me. I know it bothers my clients. It doesn't bother me only because they have some work to do. And I don't like to haste makes waste, rush into a hearing when my client still has to pull up some slack in terms of treatment. And I don't mean slack in a bad way. I mean, there's some gaps that they haven't filled yet. So we're always trying to encourage, for those that it applies to, yeah, you really have to, usually it's the newer people that come in late in the day and we weren't there in initial and recon. And we're like, oh, man, they should have been doing this, and this. You have to almost be running to your appointments at this point and hoping you get scheduled appointments that should have been made a year ago, scheduled now and happen before hearing. And that's just one appointment. That's not if you want that durational continuation. So just a word to the wise there, guys. And the last thing is saving apparently 16 billion with a better control environment. So I don't know what the specifics on that are. They are probably in the actual letter from the commissioner. And that's just, like I said, a summary bullet point. Goes on to say that these customer service improvements have saved the public nearly 40 million hours in time that would have been spent waiting for service in fiscal year 2024. Okay, there is actually more bullet points about something else, but I'm not going to go into it now because I'm hoping we have some questions here. And I'm going to jump right into that. And then if, you guys want to see that, maybe I will put together a video or certainly a link to it on the main post page. If anyone wants to see what's going on. All right, I'm scrolling back up just to see where we're at. R. Willie's in the house. Hi, R. Willie. R. Willie says, hope everyone is staying cool. Yeah, it's hard though, right? Dimple says she's seriously hoping she can win on initial. I hope so too, Dimple. We're working it, right? R. Willie says here in Wisconsin, it's not the heat, but the 75% humidity. Yeah, I would think that we probably have that here. I haven't looked at our little gauge, but I imagine it's probably pretty humid here too. I mean, I have the air conditioning running. Uh-oh. All right, guys, hold on 1 second. I think a dog just put on the vacuum. I'm not kidding. Hold on, just 2 seconds. What did you guys do? Oh, no. Stay away from that. I know what it is. Yes, they did. Someone bumped the vacuum. I'm like, what's going on? Because I know the kids left. Yeah, okay. Dimple says she's not holding your breath. Definitely don't hold your breath. Kubi Dreams is in the house. Good to see you, Kubi. Sherry Romero, good to see you, Sherry. I hope everything's going well with you. Both. Adam Salt is in the house. Hi, everyone. Yes, it's very hot up here in East Hartford, Connecticut today. 100 degrees tomorrow. Goodness. Rain Gal's in the house. Good morning, afternoon. Good info to start off. Yes, it is. Rain Gal, I agree. Butch says to hit that like button. Okay, so Dimple asks, did you say how long is taking for an initial decision, good or bad? I don't ever say that, Dimple, because it's never going to be accurate. When you guys start a claim, you probably noticed in your SSA, my account, they're giving you messages. I think that first one, they actually talk about the average in your state, the average, time it takes for us to make a determination on initial is, and then they'll say like 200 and something days or whatever, 100 and something days. That's just an overall average the last time I did a calculation, I guess, by state. So I don't know. And that's an average. Like I said, when we were talking before about the 8-minute average to call that 1-800 number, that's an average. That it could very be possible that no one actually gets 8 minutes. Everyone's down here on 7 or less, and then there's a bunch of people here that are in 0 to 2 hours, So I can't really say. I know there's things that claimants can and do inadvertently to slow it down, such as needing more time on their function report, never getting it in. Their doctors, if they're slow with medical records, that can be a problem. Then, because then they're going to ask them again and it takes more time, because nothing's going to go to the person that makes the RFC until they have all this stuff. If they're going to schedule a consultative examination, are you available for it? Is their doctor available, or is he not back for 4 weeks because he's on vacation? All those kind of things can make things go slower. I would say the most unpredictable one, though, because those things are smaller, little delays, week here, 2 weeks here. But when they take a long time to get you an adjudicator, because the adjudicators, remember they were doing CDRs and they were doing initial recons, and now that should be alleviated. So I would expect that to not be the case soon, if it still is, this delay. Otis, cut it out. Did I tell you I'm looking forward to being pet free? Maybe 5 or 6 years, but I am. Okay. So I can't tell you how long it's going to be, Dimple, but if the evidence is coming in, and I know like your lawyer is very astute about notifying the SSA of all the ongoing treatments, I would think, I don't see a reason why it would be slower than the average. Sherry says the judge asked only one hypothetical question. So Sherry had her hearing. One hypothetical question, no past jobs or none in the national economy. Also, the no questions from the attorney, and asked off the record if I would need a payee. Does this sound good? I think it sounds good. Like if I were to have to bet on this, and I'm not a betting woman, I could tell you that. At least not for anything important. I'm usually a prepared woman. That's my thing. Be prepared. He asked one hypothetical question, and the VE came back with no jobs. So the judge didn't ask about a hypothetical person, only one. So there's only one person, it would seem, that he can ascribe to you, and that's hypothetical person number one, because there is no hypothetical person number two. And as for the VE, can you guys get out? I'm not kidding. Oh my God, they're sitting on my feet, and my feet are hot. Get out. Otis, you too. What did I say? Out. Plus, you're on my bad side today. He broke into the garbage. I caught him on the ring. I went to my physical therapy, came back, and there was garbage all over the kitchen. It was my fault. I should have taken it out, but I didn't. And all the way pulled into the living room. Fiona, you can't get out, honey. That's the tourist. She's trying to get out. Good morning, Lori from Arizona. Good to see you, Lori. Again. Pilot's in the house. Pilot says, May 2025 was the last time I held a job. So it's been a little over a year. I've been looking for a job. These dogs are going to drive me crazy. Ever since, but it has been almost impossible to get one. I have been awarded 100% VA compensation with PTSD, depression, and anxiety. Okay, so you're looking for a job. So that suggests that you think you could do a job if you could just find an opening, right? Give me 1 second. Unbelievable. Okay. That is the last one. I hope. I don't have my door closed because of the AC. So it sounds like you think you could do a job if you find that maybe the dream job. And it might be that you could do a full-time job, pilot, but not one that exists in substantial numbers, but a very special one that accommodates you and all that kind of stuff. So I totally get it that you would be looking for that. He's been awarded 100% VA compensation with PTSD, depression, anxiety. Okay. You haven't mentioned if you filed. Oops. He keeps going. Hold on a second. He or she. With 70% sleep apnea, 50, and a bunch of back, knee, leg, ankle medical problems plus severe IBS, what would be the percentage of getting us? There is no percentage, and at 45, you have a very slim chance unless you get very, very robust with your current treatment, specifically on your physical, but don't drop the mental. And I say that because if you are navigating your community, you can go order your food, you can fill up the car, you can drive on the roads. I don't like this camera. The chance of you winning on mental is slim because it would sound like there's no reason you can't do a simple, sedentary, physically easy job and mentally easy, like for a third grader. But and you still have a tough battle at age 45 because you have to prove literally 12,000 jobs are unavailable to you because of one impairment or another or a combination. So you have to be very intentional about this, is the way I look at it. You have to disprove that you can do a sedentary sit-down job. You have to disprove that you can do a light job. Light, you have to disprove that. And obviously medium, heavy, and above. So I'm assuming you're getting weekly therapy at least for the mental health. And what that can do for you is eliminate all those higher skilled jobs, but that doesn't affect the unskilled jobs of sedentary, light, medium, heavy, or very heavy. So then you have to start addressing those physical things. And that's why you need to be very aggressively treating to get the evidence, ongoing durational evidence, not a one-hit wonder, not a snapshot of your back, knee or knees, legs, ankle. What are those diagnoses? Diagnostic tests to prove there's an impairment if it's something that requires a diagnostic test. The severe IBS can be very limiting, even without those other things. If you can prove that it keeps you in the bathroom, say 2 hours out of an 8-hour day, because then you'd only be working for 6 hours, and that's not full time, right? If you had that impairment, that would be the most you could work. Remember, one of the rules for SSD is that person can't work any full-time job, then, and no full-time job unless you do it on the hopper, right? Then you're disabled. So the IBS is something, and I say this a lot. I know we have a video on this someplace specifically, but IBS, keep a journal. How many times a day, at what time do you go, and for how long? And you could say whether it's 1 or 2. You can, and then how many minutes you were in there. Let's say you do it in the morning. Like, I would actually put the time down so you can confirm that it's during that, what would be an 8-hour day. And it's just bathroom, how long, and then of course you wash your hands. That's an extra minute, blah, blah, blah. And then out. And then how often? Because let's say you're in there 15 minutes every hour and 20 minutes. So that means every 2.5 hours or so, you lose a half hour. That's pretty huge. So after 5 hours, you've lost an hour from bathroom. At 6.5 hours, you've lost an hour and a half. By the end of the day, you've lost almost 2 hours. And that's just from the IBS. And then some people it's even longer. Like 15 minutes does not cut it in there. So everyone's different, but I would start, you don't have to give it to anyone yet, but like maybe for the next month or so, document exactly what that means from a being able to work at the workstation type of job. Because probably if that's, you said it's severe, there's IBS and people have it and it's annoying and uncomfortable, but severe could be something entirely different. And that can be really, that can tip a case over for a young person even, because it does that off-task thing. But you really need strong evidence, and your doctors have to know how frequently you go, and not just once. Every time I talk to the GI or the PCP, I would be reiterating how often I have to go. One thing about the journals, you guys have probably heard this before, and I know I have some of these journals for various things, but definitely for IBS. Every 2 months, you have it hopefully in a concise thing, like on a little calendar book. You take so every month is a page. If you have that, just with I would send it to my doctor. I would attach it through the portal and say, this is how often I'm going. I just wanted to make sure, you have this in your file because, I think it's important we track whether the medications are working to make this better, because the doctor, there's no way for the doctor to know if they don't know where you're starting at, what your baseline is, where it's going. And then with that one medicine, you some your medications, if it's severe, is that what helping? Oh, then I got to switch to this one, or it helps. However, it causes this other symptom that is completely intolerable. So that's kind of your excuse for saying, I want to send you these because I want them in my file so you know the frequency. I know that I say that because then it's part of the medical record. So it's got a little bit more weight than if you just pull it out later. What I do with my clients is I will actually sum it up, put a summary on the front of, say, a year-long 12 pages. And when I have a hearing, I send it up and I have it summarized. So, as you can see, every day in these 6 months, there was no less than an hour and a half of bathroom time in an 8-hour period. And it even went up to 4 hours 1/3 of the time. I'll do the stats on it. So we're actually making it eat. The doctor, the judge has the backup to look at of what the claimant says goes on every day. And it's historical. It's not like he's just saying it on the stand. And I've summed it up so that it's an easy read for him. He can double check my math, but he doesn't have to if he doesn't, I want him to see what we're saying instead of him having to figure out what we're trying to say. And then he could double check later. Just an idea there, pilot. Civil Chick is in the house. Hi, Civil. Butch T says, I applied back in August and still haven't gotten my application handed to a worker. Yeah. If I were you, I would write to my congressperson. That's a very, very long time. That's ridiculous. So it could have fallen through a crack. And I would get on that. Today, you can go right to, I always say, pick the congressperson that's up soonest for reelection. Hopefully one's up for reelection in 2026, but you may not be so fortunate. And use them. And they tend to take action within a couple days. I just did one yesterday on a different issue. I think it was getting them to process the attorney paperwork. How ridiculous is that? And I do them all over the country, so I don't know which jurisdiction it was, but I think it was Florida. The senator wrote their team wrote back and said, just so you know, we have we're like 7 to 10 days out on requests for help on anything, because they help with all federal agencies, not just SSA. So that's unfortunate. That's a little slow, but so what? I'll take the 7 to 10 days because it's better than in 7 to 10 days I'm still sitting in the same place I was. My client is too. So I think you definitely, Butch, need to do something. So you could be sitting here next August, a year from August. Make sure it's actually in. Did you get confirmation that they have your application? It sounds like you have, because you know that it doesn't have a worker. So Cyril says it feels like 104 in Illinois. It might be 104, and I bet you in the sun it's like what, 120. I hear Tasha. I didn't bring her in today. It was a little crazy. My daughter and her boyfriend were coming back from a trip, and I knew the dogs were going to go crazy and yada, yada, yada. And I was just running in from an appointment I had. Lori B. Yes, I'm in Pennsylvania, Lori B. Do you know where Birdsboro or Hopewell Furnace is? The Birds are my 6 to 7 times great-granddaddies. Oh, wow. I didn't grow up in Pennsylvania. I've been here for like 23 years. I grew up over the border and about 45 minutes in New Jersey. Although I'm becoming a little more familiar with Central PA, but I don't know where Birdsboro is. Hopewell Furnace almost sounds familiar though. When I hear the name Furnace in it, I always think Old Town, right? Dolphins in the house. Hi, RJ. California. Lori says, I was denied almost 20 years ago, and now I'm leery of filing again. Once bitten, twice shy. How old are you, Lori? 20 years ago, you were a youngster. You probably had a whole separate set of rules, not the least of which is one that applies to everyone, which has changed, which is the 15-year work rule, and now it's only 5. So don't be once bitten, twice shy. Don't do that. You're gonna have a different set of. I don't know how old you are, so I'll hold my tongue here. But if you let me know, it could be very, very, very different Does that also mean that you have not worked in 20 years because you were disabled but didn't win? Or did you realize you actually could do some sort of work anyway and were able to work? And so they were actually technically correct that you were not disabled? Just want to. Dimple says, in my state, the info they provided for the local office, as Maury would say, that's a lie. Oh my God, that's not your daddy. In my state, the info they provided for the local office is a lie. Yeah, those estimates. I mean, remember, an estimate is an estimate. It's a little slippery. Oh, by the way, guys, I think I'm going to. He says if I could stay awake, I'll be on with Jonathan Ginsburg tonight, just having some fun like we do. I'm probably his goofiest visitor. Everyone's so serious. It is serious stuff. So that would be 8:45. I think it starts. So, yeah, it'll be a very long day. Oh no, says Furry. Sorry, Furry. I don't know what you're knowing about. Sybil Chick says, had eye surgery appointment Friday. Eye surgeon appointment Friday. Now the right eye is having the same issues. Monday got nerve steroid block in back. It's always something. I know. That's called getting older, right, Sybil? It is always something. We're just a bunch of old chicks complaining. That's me too. I'm like, I could feel that crick in my whatever. Sybil also says she has an appointment on July 10th with the SSA doctor step 3. You're in step 3. I've learned I cannot carry on a one-on-one conversation. I just say, never mind. I have no clue. I was talking about brain lesions. Oh my gosh. Really? I'm so sorry. I just say no, like you're in the middle of a conversation when the person is not following you because maybe you're not explaining it like the way you would have before. And you're just like looking at them because they look confused and you're like, never mind. I have no clue. I was just saying, I feel for you. Oh my gosh, Sybil. Brain damage. Okay. I know I am off. What the heck? I always figured people with brain damage don't realize it. I was so wrong. Oh man. Yes, right? Um, I don't know. And it's funny because aside from brain damage, I feel like as we get older, we all start second guessing ourselves because we're always seeing people who actually do not brain damage, but like some sort of dementia or something. And, there comes a point when they don't know it. And you guys all know, many of you know what I went through with my old close friend last fall, who's now, in a forever memory home. She's way younger than me. It's shocking. It's one of those really rare things. Go figure. But you look every time you screw something up, you're like, is that a sign? So I guess we still have it going on if we're actually able to question ourselves, right? Earth One says, I'm turning 65 years young in August. I threw that in there, Earth One. I've been on SSDI since age 62. My CDR scheduled for 7/30/2030. I'm changing my health coverage next month. Should I? Or am I required to inform SSA? No, you don't have to change. You don't have to tell them anything about your health coverage. That's your business. You're fine. You're totally fine. You're never going to get a CDR unless you start like working and earning substantial gainful activity that you're like triggering your own CDR. You're diaried for not having one. So you're golden. And people say, well, then why do they even schedule it, the CDR for July of 2030, since Earth One will be, what is it, 2026? Earth One will be way over the age when you're already in retirement and there's no more SSD anyway. He or she won't be on it. And it's a funny question. However, here's what I'm thinking. The rules right now are that you're full retirement at 67. And they darn well better stay that way and never be increased unless they start making us healthier again, which I don't foresee. Although I think RFK is working hard on it. Imagine if they changed the law that full retirement is now age 70. And there's nothing seriously on the books slated to do this, guys. So I'm just hypothetically saying. if they didn't have the like, so they do pin this. Maybe that's why they pin it. They just give you the CDR, even though it's not going to matter, because if the law changes, then things can matter, and then they have to have had one. So or have one scheduled. So let's say in 2 years from now, they change the full retirement age. And by the way, for those of you who don't know it, the full retirement age, you know how it's 67 is going to be the max now. For years now, it's that they made that change. I want to say a couple decades ago, and it was graduated up to it. Before that, it was 65. So when they needed to save money, back then, they changed the full retirement age to 67. I didn't know about it then because I probably wasn't practicing when they did it, but I don't approve of it. I don't approve of when you can't manage your monies, you go through all the people, contrary to science anyway, because we know people may be living to 80, but are they actually healthier? I don't know that that's true. I see a lot of people in nursing homes living out that lack of quality of life, so can't speak to it. A lot of disabled people, I think my gut tells me it's worse, but I haven't done the research on that yet. But I do so many other research things outside of this. That's not something I'm tacking on. But anyway, I think because rules can change, probably not in our lifetimes. It's not before, us in our 50s, or even like it won't affect us. But the younger people they could push that up. They could go to 68, and they save money off off that change instead of getting a grip on everything else, keeping that labor market strong. All those reasons why we're supposed to have a strong economy and, incentive for workers to work and to earn and do overtime and all that. The more they take away from that, the more it weakens it. So then they got to pull it out of something else. Butch says, yes, I have confirmation. I have lawyer. And they said, oh, you have a lawyer. Good. And they sent me a message the other day saying my application still hasn't been assigned to a caseworker. By the way, I'm 56 and I've been dealing with cervical. Well, I wonder if they are going to consider encouraging you and or helping you to just do a professional inquiry. It takes all of 3 minutes. It's not hard. Not hard at all. I mean, yeah, I realize that their fees growing while you're waiting should they win for you. So maybe they're not in a rush, but this is ridiculous. That's 10 months. I think it's, I would get on it. And to interfere in what their plan is, but maybe they just didn't realize or someone, Issues balance, extremity issues, says Butch. Yeah. Those stink. In 50s, we in our 50s start to feel it. Some people in their 40s. Sybil Chick says, it's like someone hits an off button. Oh, I do get it. I do get it. I've seen it, but yours is due to injury and not just natural old age, right, Sybil? Lori B says, follow up on questions. Over 60, went back to same job as I needed to pay bills. You're now over 60. I become accustomed to electricity, indoor plumbing. Yeah, I get it. And the point is you're able to work. So, I will say at your age, the rules are vastly different. Okay, so if it was 40 years ago, you were in your 40s, you were that under 50 crowd. They would be very different now, Lori, but you still have to be able to know you have enough saved or else have family that lives with you that will pay the bills so that the months necessary for the SSA to do the job. And if you've been treating for all the right things, that would help someone in your age category win versus things that aren't going to help you win. Not that you shouldn't treat everything, but if your picks of treatment, assuming you are treating, fall in line with the, if your priorities matched what would be legally significant, and if you can hold your breath and either don't work at all or work under SGA, that's another thing. You can bring in a certain amount. You can bring like $1,500 a month in as long as you're working very reduced hours. It's not inconsistent with your disabilities, and you're treating for those disabilities vigorously. So there's evidence you could do this at the same time. If you wanted to discuss it, just let me know. You can You could send in an eval and mention that we talked and like, I'm just trying to figure out if I'll be able to withstand not working to do this or whatever. Put it somewhere in the narrative under a different question, but answer the question as well. All right. I don't know that I see any other questions. You guys good? If anyone has questions, put them up. I will go on here and just tell you a little bit more about what they were saying. I told you there's 5 bullet points of statistically significant improvements in services. And then they have a section on notable technology improvements to date include straight-through processing. It says automates end-to-end processing of Medicare claims. Okay, that's the Medicare side. From initial application through adjudication, improving service speed and accuracy for the public. SSA has processed over 340,000. So this is not SSD or SSI. This has to do with SSA's fingers in their activities, what they do to process Medicare claims with the Medicare department, shall we say. SSA has processed over 340 Medicare claims to date with straight-through processing and is now expanding to certain retirement claims. Okay. I don't know what that means. So the straight-through processing, quote, it automates end-to-end, I guess beginning to end. And they've used it on Medicare. I guess things just move faster. Maybe they're not held up for something after each stage. And I guess they're going to do that with retirement claims, which is good because retirement claims, you only have to prove your age. And, they should have the numbers on what you've paid in. You don't have to do all this stuff we do day to day, right? All of us here with regard to disability. So, hey, Laverle's in the house. Laverle says, my case went to step 4 after 3 days. Federal Quality Review, FQR. What do you think my chances are of local office reviewing non-medical? 100%. But that's not a problem. Well, yeah, because good, bad, or ugly, they're going to say they're reviewing non-medical. However, the good part is interesting. 3 days, you said you had a federal quality review, and then it went to step 4. I'm assuming it's step 4 within the field office or the non-DDS office, and you don't mean step 4 in the sequential evaluation process that the DDS deals with. So, if you had an FQR, while it's possible to be denied an FQR, I think I largely see very high statistics of that being completely affirmed. The FQR on a adjudicator's determination that he wanted to award, and the FQR just overlooks it, makes sure that the adjudicator followed all the rules. All the federal rules of determining SSD, disability status. Hey, so I think you've got good chances. Fingers crossed for you. And a prayer. Okay? Hang in there, girl. Butch says, thank you for your insight. Love the channel. So glad to hear it. Like, share, and subscribe. You're probably already subscribed, but yeah, like it and share it, guys. All right. Smiley's in the house, but I don't think we've spoken. And just contributed $5. That's very generous, Smiley. And considering I don't think we've even spoken, so I think that's really sweet. And I think the 1%ers appreciate that. We have a new one, by the way, young person. My BBQI says next CRD. Okay. I don't really use those acronyms, but next CRD, do you mean CDR is October of 2027? So continuing disability review is a year from October. Medical re-exam cycle 3 years. What's that mean? Okay. I'm assuming that means that you're on a diary of 3 years. I don't know when you first prevailed. And then Smiley asked, does that mean my medical diary is mine or myth? If it's 3 years, it's definitely not mine. Mine would be medical improvement not expected. That would probably be 5 to 7 years. Yeah, I would say that's a myth. Or I can't say for sure it's not a medical improvement expected. It's better to have medical, I'm thinking it's better to have medical improvement possible, because possible, it seems to be less likely than expected. So just keep up with the reasonable treatments on your mental and your physical. If you have new impairments that come along as we age, right? You look pretty young, but you never know. Get them treated. Like if you have health insurance, whether it's private through a spouse or through, a state government, like Medicaid, use it, use it, use it, and follow for everything. When things start happening chronically, I would start getting, make sure I have that in my box of ammo for a CDR, because they will eventually look at your new impairments if they have to. If they find that you've otherwise improved from your old impairments appear improved in the written form in the documents. So just stick with it. You're welcome, Laverl. Okay. It's not a lot of questions today, guys. You think it's the holidays? Anybody got special plans? I don't. And I'm very big into it. I don't know if any of you guys know me. I'm extremely patriotic. Extremely. I love the history. I love looking back at what people have done, what the good people have done to always, you know, make things better and improve things and all that, in a very flawed humanity, which we all are. So I just love it. I'm so grateful. All right. So I'm going to go back to until we get another question. And if we have no questions for a while, we can call it off early, guys. It is the holiday is upon us. For many people, anyway. I'll be working. They go on to say that a notable technological improvement is telephone support, immediate service through interactive voice response, IVR. Nearly 40% of calls are currently handled through IVR. Now that's pretty awesome. So that suggests to me that is all the things kind of like companies do, which I know many of us get annoyed when we call a company that we actually, we pay, so it's good. But like when you try to call your phone company and you have a question about you're gonna, if this, then this, and you press. I'm sure that's going to be here too. But imagine if you don't have to bother getting on with a person, and you just have to press the buttons, and you're going to get your answer. And I don't know exactly what that would be. I don't ever use it, but 40% of calls are things that can be handled automatedly. I wonder what that means. Like, what does it tell you? Like, if you say, what day am I expecting my payment, or how much is my payment, maybe? I don't know. Has anybody used it? And if so, still, let us know. If you called and got the answer you wanted by going through the automated system, which is the IVR. And the last thing they talk about is supporting SSA. Technology enhancements have increased program integrity, reduced improper payments, that's big and huge, and maximized operational efficiency for SSI claims processing. That's cool. So I guess that is supportive of the SSA staff if they have things efficiently being handled operationally. If things figure out, I think reduce improper payments. SSI, it's very easy to get an improper payment. If you're working while on SSI, which is very commendable and cool, and you come out with more money in the end, it's still a pain in the butt though, because your SSI, you have to report it. Nothing's going to be in real time. I think in the past, because I remember them averting to this several months back. In the past, God, by the time they figured out what your real income was for all those months, they've already before they figure it out, they've already overpaid you. And that's a real pain, because now you have an overpayment. And I think they were using things, maybe it was employer connections or something, to find out much faster, like within a couple weeks, exactly what was made, so we know exactly what they should have gotten for that month, because it's tweaked $50 here, whatever it is. and they make sure it's handled the very next month, so you don't grow this astronomical overpayment that's going to give you a heart attack, you know. So that is a really good thing. Reducing improper payments, making sure that they're kept in par. I mean, SSI can always be, it's going to be something that's always got to be checked like every month, because every month counts as, did you have money coming in? Did you not? And you know, guys, if you have a job that's, you have a pretty steady paycheck, maybe not always exactly spot on, but fairly consistent. If you tell them, let's say you're making $500 a month, sometimes it's $490, sometimes it's $610. If you tell them, they should be able to say, all right, so going forward, we're going to deduct the $250 from your SSI so you don't get an overpayment, because that would be the deduction on, say, well, technically like $565, because the first 65 would be uncounted. So when you tell them that it's going to continue, this is the way it's supposed to be, then they just set the new bar. And then if your thing changes, you tell them again. And they'll set the new bar again, so that you're never doing this. You know, you're going to be getting, you know, 700 from SSA, not the 9 or 900 or 1,000 because of your work. If your work changes, you stop it, boom, you tell them right away, and they can adjust it. It's never going to be exactly in real time, but that way beats them waiting till tax time, you know, when they get the batch information from the IRS and then saying, oh, you've got a $12,000 overpayment. That is fatal heart attack worthy. Dolphin says, does using marijuana hurt your claim? That depends. It's all going to be specific to your facts. Is it medical marijuana? I don't even see really recreational marijuana hurting a case unless you're a total pothead and you are unable to work because you're stoned all the time. So I don't think it's the big thing it used to be. I just don't. If you have like lung issues, probably it would be more of a problem, because now you're perpetuating your own lung problems. You're making it worse. So possibly, but not as big of a deal as it used to be. That does not apply to other drugs, guys. So don't be doing that other stuff. Laverne says, sorry, worded question wrong. After FQR case went back to local office, step 4, they are reviewing the non-medical. This is a good sign and whatever. My answer stays the same. I think it's a good sign, Laverne. Statistically speaking, I think it's a good sign, knowing nothing else about your case. Okay? All right. I don't think there's anything more juicy in this SSA announcement, but I do like that information. Anything else going on, guys? We might be able to call this a day. We've been in for about an hour. I will be tonight, 8:45, chatting with my friend Jonathan Ginsburg on his channel. So 8:45, did I say that right? Yeah. So yeah, come visit and say hi. I would appreciate that. So would he. Yeah, he's prolific with guest speakers, so some really good ones too. Whereas me, I'm kind of a non-joiner, so I just like to answer the questions. Oh, DWS has a question. I got you, DW. My SSI started today, got my first payment reduced by 1/3. Okay, so what we're just talking about maybe, and that was due to family support the past year. If I start paying all my bills starting today and from now on, will my payment go up to the full amount? Okay. You said your family support. What was that? Was that housing? Were they giving you free room and board, DW? If they were, you want to be in a rental agreement with them for at least the PMV, I think it's called, presumed market value, not necessarily the actual. So let's say $400 or more, if that's what your agreement is, then they will give you back the balance. If you have a bona fide, it's not free rent, you know. In the past, if their support had been a loan, you could have probably escaped the reduction you've already experienced. But if you never told them that it was a loan because it wasn't, and it was a gift, you know, of kindness, then that wouldn't apply. So it really depends on the kind of support. If they are handing you cash, it's going to count. If you stop having them hand you cash, that helps. And that's only if this is what's going on. There are some bills that they can just outright pay and it doesn't count. Someone can pay your cell phone bill. They can't give you the money to pay it. They have to pay it. What other bills would there be? Internet. If you have your own place or whatever, internet. Can't be used for the things that SSI is supposed to cover, which is rents or shelter, food, and things of that nature. What else? The whole thing is not whether you pay your bills or not. It's whether they're giving you countable money that counts as income. So I would have them stop doing that. Let's say they give you $100 a month so you can pay your cell phone bill. Have them pay the cell phone bill. So you're not now getting income in it. And then I would get it in writing. I would call the SSA, but also get it in writing that this is so-and-so. I was helping him while his case was pending. And now that he's won his SSI, I'm no longer giving him money to get by on because he has the SSI. I'm giving him $0 or whatever. And if it's the rent thing, then it's you're going to want to have it documented that you have a rental agreement. It's for X amount for your room or whatever. And I would even say in the letter, as such, that there should no longer be an SSI reduction to my payment. Give them the hint. That's why you're telling them. And sometimes they're really slow about it, and you have to really push. And if they give you a letter that says anything that you don't like, and do you want to appeal, you appeal. Once you've gotten the ducks in a row and you've got the money situation the way it should be for no reduction. Okay? Lori B says, happy July 4th, or happy 4th of July. I always say happy Independence Day, Lori B, because do you know how many people don't know what July 4th is for? They just think it's for fun, for family and barbecues, and they don't really understand the crux of it. I want to go see that movie, Washington. I think it's in the theaters. I think it's by Angel Studios. But so I always say happy Independence Day. Happy Independence Day to you. I know that's so nerdy of me, right? And you stay safe and enjoy our country's birthday too, Lori. CW said, yes, they paid my mortgage and utilities directly. Mortgages and utilities are part of your shelter. That counts, CW. That is income to you because it's in kind. Remember, if they pay more, they pay shelter. That's going to be your utilities. Your cell phone is not your utilities, nor is your internet. But your water, garbage, electric, heat, that, and then anything they pay in terms of rent, or you're part of the house. You know, if you're living there for free with them, that's going to count. That's been screwing you. Because those are those things. So they have to stop paying them at all, not directly or indirectly, except they can do the cell and all that kind of stuff. You know, the non-basic needs. So you should be able to, if you are now paying your, I don't know, are they the landlord? Is it your family? Sounds like it might be. Or did you have your own mortgage and they're paying that? Then you might be screwed because if your SSI will not support your mortgage, you might be better off selling that house and getting something that's more affordable for you. You know, in line with your needs. Just saying. They won't be giving me help from now on unless I ask them. Okay, when you ask them, maybe make it a written loan. The SSA is not going to follow them and make sure they paid it, or that you paid them back necessarily. It just needs to know it's a bona fide loan, unqualified. It's not like we're going to loan this money and you have to pay us back if blah blah. No, it's like a regular business loan. You're on the hook. You get and it doesn't go away even if you die. They could technically go up to your estate. So as long as it's technically this, then sometimes getting help is okay. DW says, I just want to know if my pay now in July will go up to the full. They can't read your mind, so I assume it's going to stay the same until you get it changed. Why would they change it? They don't know, unless you've already done this, that you're no longer being gifted this significant amount of income every month. They don't know what bills you pay. They don't follow you. They're not like following your bill, your vendor companies or anything like that. You have to go and proactively get them to change their calculations by explaining My parents are no longer paying my mortgage or however that's working. You need to change it. And I know it'll probably take a little while for them to get on the ball, but you have to stick with it. Use honey, not vinegar. Keep your documentation very tight and organized. And you can do this. Our Willie says, veterans can get a free ticket to see Young Washington through Angel Studios. Oh, yeah. See, that's what I was talking about, Angel Studios. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to watching it. I don't know that I'll get to a theater. That would be kind of fun. I haven't gone to a theater. I like to go with my family. It's so bloody. And I actually invested in, I don't know if you call invest. I did that whole voluntary, you know, financially supporting Angel Studios because they did some really important work that Hollywood just wasn't able to quite get a will to do. But yeah, I think that'll be good to see. It'll be streaming eventually. So if I don't get to the theater, and I would like to, I'm not driving down south. Like it has to be like in my town, or else I'm not going to do it. But yeah, I look forward to it very much. If I show refractory resistance, and thanks for that announcement to all the veterans too, our Willie. Veterans, go to Angel Studios and get free tickets to Angel Studios. I'm sorry, to Young Washington. Just got to make sure you got a theater near you that's showing it. If I show refractory, resistant to non-neurological treatment so far, OAB symptoms off task over 50%. Would this equate to meeting a listing, meet listing, 1108 opinion? Well, you can use both. I mean, obviously you have to have diagnoses that say this, not just you saying it. There has to be actual diagnoses that are known to cause this. And it's going to be a really, you want a really robust, objective medical file. But yeah, I mean, whatever listing you're going for, and I don't even recall which ones these are. I see so many, honestly. Each case, I just do it individually all over again. And then occasionally we do a video on particular listings, but you don't have to restrict yourself to one argument. Like I have a brief that's getting completed probably today, and I have a listing section because I go by the sequential valuation process. Has my person done SGA? No, because, and I explain why this particular income was not SGA, blah, blah. Number two, do they have severe medically determinable impairments? Yes, as you can see it, all these different citable things, here they are. Number three, do they meet a listing? And sometimes you can't really say that they absolutely meet that listing as it's written, but sometimes we'll say, but the combination of they have, including this and this, they equal this listing or this listing. And I think we did it with this guy. And it probably has to do with musculoskeletal, which is a hard one to win under, but that would be nice. But you don't stop there. So our biggest part of our brief is actually, I call it step 3.5. If they find they have to go past the step 3 of the listings, and they say, not finding a listing here, not going with the equals, meets or equals, then they go on to, well, then what's his RFC? So then I have a whole, it's probably the heaviest part of the brief, usually, of what the RFC is, because I'm definitely trying to prove sedentary. That tells you that the person is under 55. Ironically, it's one of those cusp things where age category change we're in that circle right now, in that little few months before hearing, where it's applicable. And it's a win if you get, age 55 at the day of the hearing, but there's no back benefits for my guy. And of course, there's no fee he doesn't have to pay himself. And probably not at all. So I don't like to fee petitions. I do them under certain circumstances and not others. It would be, so I myself want to see the person get back to, might not be back to alleged onset date. Particularly, a lot of times when people allege an onset date, they weren't really treating heavily when they realized that they couldn't work. It's when they started to realize that they have to start treating. So sometimes the treatment doesn't get really robust for a good year later, but that's what we're fighting for. So that needs it all needs sedentary. If the judge finds light He's going to win, but it's not going to be till today. And he's going to have to wait even through his 5-month waiting period to get to any benefits. So, it's called a partially favorable. I want better for him. It's better for us too, granted, and that's how they make that all like we all have the same goal in mind. But I love back benefits for my people, irrespective of the fact that that's how our fee is derived. If we're not going to do fee petition, because it's just such a good feeling to know that you positively impact something for a long time for somebody. It's like the gift that keeps on giving. So hopefully. Butch says crowdfunded. I guess, is that what it is, Butch? Ninja Studios. I mean, it's very famous now. I don't, it sounds like it. Yeah. I bet you it is. I mean, they were kind of an unknown when I first heard of them. So at least to me, they were. And that was a few years back. There was something like you can get 5 shares. I said 5 shares for like $150. So I don't know. So I was feeling not financially constrained at the time. Now we're post-tax time, so I feel tight again. I hate it. It's hard for self-employed people because we have to do those estimated, and if we don't do them right, we get stuck with a big bill at the end as well, which is what happened tonight. DeFi says, okay, thank you. Yes, diagnosis is there. Other conditions can combine. Yes, that's kind of how you can work that in. But don't blow off the rest of it, for sure. Because that's, yeah. Why? I always say use every valid argument you have. Alternative theories. Grid argument would have to show VE saying no jobs. No, that's not true. Grid argument, not necessarily. Because remember, grid, I don't forget how old you said you are, defined, over 50. So I'm going to assume that you're under 55 for the moment. If you prove that you cannot do light work and you could only do sedentary at best, if you prove you can't do your prior job, and if you prove you can't transfer those skills to a job within that sedentary capacity you could do, you win. So it doesn't, they sometimes still ask the VE questions, but it doesn't really, I don't feel like it affects the application of the grid to you necessarily. Because they don't have to say, whether, because so let's say they say, well, with a person that's a same age, education, experience as the claimants, who's limited to sedentary work, are there any jobs? They're going to say, yes, of course, blah, 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 blah. What about if the person is further limited to unskilled because of severe anxiety issues and concentration? Are there jobs they could do? Well, yes, there are sedentary unskilled jobs. So, and then could you name those jobs? And they name the jobs. Okay, so he found that, but that doesn't mean the grids don't apply, right? Sedentary, can't do prior job. He might ask the VE if the hypothetically gave is compatible with being able to do your prior work. And if the VE said yes, then obviously the judge did not include a limitation you feel you have. And so your lawyer or you would then say, all right, now when the judge gives you opportunity to ask your own hypothetical, like same hypothetical as hypothetical number 1 that the judge gave you. But if this other limitation existed, such as the person has no hands, would that sedentary job typing be available? And then do the, oh no, or the job I used to do, would that be available? No. And then if you know that you have no hands and you have a good chance of running, but of course the judge would have included that. But sometimes we're like, wait, the judge didn't include this, and I find this to be relevant, So, but the way I look at it is the grids don't really even need a VE. And I think that's why we went on initial, think about it on initial and recon sometimes. They do a vocational analysis because they do have to find out about the prior work. That's the big heavy. Not so much, the other work, because we have that presumption of the no other work if all you can do is sedentary. Defy says early 27 will be 54 and a half. So you are 54 now. So grid is easier there. 54 and a half. Sometimes, you're going to try to argue maybe for a borderline. If you're close to, if you're very close to 50 and 55 at your hearing, your brief, you could, suggest borderline applicability, perhaps. So grid is easier there. No, 54 and a half, if they're going to hold you at 54 and a half, it's no real easier than 51, unfortunately. That's why I say 50 to 54. But I'm less than sedentary after doing a sedentary job. I understand. I have a lot of people that I believe are less than sedentary, but I'd say it's like 1 in 20 will a judge say the person's less than sedentary. I'll go with sedentary. But by the way, at your age, you can win on sedentary with the grids. So you don't have to prove less than sedentary. The case I'm working on right now, I'm definitely going with less than sedentary and sedentary. Like, I'm throwing in a less than sedentary. I don't need it. But I think the facts pan that out. So I just kind of throw it in there. RFCs and ongoing wrist impairment treatments, less than 2 pounds frequently. Okay. Less than 2 pounds frequently. Yeah, if you've got that well documented. That's, I assume you had surgeries and stuff like that. So, yeah, good luck there, pal. All right. I think we're good, guys, right? It's 2:16. I've been here an hour and 16 minutes. Questions are light. I hope we hit them all. I don't see any more. I hope everyone's doing super fabulous. Anyone who's not chiming in, I know a lot of shy people out there. If you do have a question, just plop it in. Oop, there's you go. There's 7X. Hi, 7. Good to see you. Still 11 months out. Reconsideration. What a surgeon report says I have 2 arthrosis of my L4. He has to redo it and also include L3 with it. That's another recovery. Is that good evidence? Everything that shows more impairment is going to be helpful to make your evidence stronger as to more limitations. So yes. Does it mean it clinches it? I would have no way of knowing that, of course. All right. And I don't recall your vocational profile, 7X. Obviously, the older you are. Tracy hears you, says, just saying hi. Thank you, Tracy. I appreciate happy Independence Day, my lady. All right. We all good? We're all good. All right. I'm going to call it a day, guys. I'm going to go guzzle a gallon of water. I feel very thirsty. Again, have a great weekend. Thank you to all our veterans, as always. I believe we have a Red Friday from Low Review report coming out this Friday. So those are always dedicated to our deployed military individuals. But I love my veterans too, because you guys already put in the time. But you know what Red Friday's about too. So I don't like to leave those guys out, even though they're not veterans yet. They are our deployed who can't be home like we can, or most of us can with our families. So, Carrie's in the house. Carrie just asked a question. Hi there, Carrie. Had the SSA order X-ray and PCHC exam. I'm not sure what that stands for. How much time does it take after? Usually not long. Usually. Does that mean necessarily for you it won't take long? No, but usually. It's usually that stuff is the last part of it. It can deviate though, but usually. Happy Independence Day, Civil. All right. And happy birthday to America and all of us who are American and everyone who loves America. All right. I'm going to split. Thank you, Dimple. You guys have a great week, okay? I'm going to go guzzle my water. I'll talk to you later. Remember, next Wednesday we'll be here, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as usual. And please do watch the 12 o'clock daily recordings. They immensely help the channel. Thank you so much, guys. Like, share, and what was the other one? Dimple? Like, share, and oh yeah, subscribe. All right. Bye, guys.